Yo, what's up? This is Stan Ipcus, aka Stanley Ipcus, aka Ippy Dippy, aka Daddy Long Legs, here chilling with the Cabbages podcast, having a blast.
Hi, Gary.
Hey there, Jeff.
We Gary, we watched The Mask.
We did. We did
This
watch The
was
Mask.
this was our this is how we bounced back into this thing of ours. This thing
Hmm.
of ours. We we watched The Mask, 1994, Jim Carrey, Cameron Diaz.
Yep.
You're probably wondering why I seem frustrated.
Me a little.
This film's gotten into my head.
Okay.
Okay? I'm having an identity crisis.
You mean identity crisis?
I'm
It's a
having an
movie.
identity crisis.
What are you talking about?
Ever since I watched the movie, and you're going to think I'm crazy, but this is a real thing that's happened to me. After we watched The Mask,
Hmm.
every time I walk down the street, it feels like there's a group of people around me at all times, and they keep calling me Cuban Pete. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, your name's Jeff. That's what I'm thinking when they're saying it. But they
Yeah.
keep calling me Cuban Pete. And the only things I can think of as to why, minus that I had just watched The Mask, is that I am the king of the rumba beat. And when I play the maracas, they go chick, chicky, boom, chick, chicky, boom, chick, chicky, boom.
Do you hear yourself? Like, ever? Do you ever hear
It's
what is
debatable.
coming out of that mouth of yours?
It's debatable, Gary. But I know
Yeah.
one thing. I know one
Mm.
thing. I'm Cuban Pete. I'm the king of the rumba beat.
All right. Well,
My name is Cuban Pete, and I want you to refer to me as Cuban Pete for the rest of the podcast. Please.
I will
I'm
do
asking. I'm
absolutely.
asking, not being a jerk. I'm just asking that you do it as a favor to me.
It's a hard no.
Can we get a soft no?
No, I'm actually. It's gonna be pretty rigid there. I'm not playing this game. I'm not okay with this. We're gonna have fun though. We're gonna have fun.
Yeah,
We've
you
got
say that now. You sound
we
like you're having
have
a barrel of laughs over there.
well, because you're coming in with delusions and you're making me worried.
Listen,
Like I don't know. Have you
you
been smoking
wanted
that K
this. You
two?
wanted me to
Like,
watch The Mask as an adult. I watched this thing like 1,000 times as a kid.
mhm.
You made me watch it as an adult, and now I'm Cuban Pete. This is your fault.
I don't know. Well, you're Cuban Pete. Our rapper guest today is Stan Ipkiss.
Mhm.
What the hell does that make me? Richard Jenny?
Well, you've got to be another version of The Mask.
I'm gonna be me, and I'm the only Cuban person on this fucking thing.
I'm gonna be me. Fuck out of here.
Be right
My
back.
name is Cuban Pete.
Okay, I am thrilled to introduce our guest for today's show. Joining us now is Stan Ipkiss. You heard that right. Named for the protagonist in the Mask comics, the White Plains, New York rapper and writer has had a productive release year. Over the summer, he dropped the Mask tape in time with this movie's 30th anniversary. Then in the fall, he dropped a brand new album called Sleep If You Want, with features by Genovese, you heard that right, and Superbad Solace. You can cop physical editions of both projects now through Tape Kings, or you can hear it digitally wherever music is streamed or sold. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that he is also the co-author of a tremendous book called Do Remember, the Golden Age of NYC Hip Hop Mixtapes. I highly recommend getting yours through an independent bookseller, or if you have to, Amazon is fine too. Hello and welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Gary. I appreciate it, man. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor.
This is sort of our forte, what we call the bad movie, the good bad movie, the bad
Right,
movie, the sort of thing
right.
where like you might love a thing in spite of itself, or you might be drawn to something because it's going to be terrible. And this is a film that has history with the 30th anniversary, and there could not have been a better person for us to talk to about this movie than you for very obvious reasons. If
Right.
people who are listening still haven't figured it out, the protagonist in this movie, the man behind the mask, is Stanley Ipkiss. That is the name
Yeah.
of the character. So be clear, that is where all this fits together. But because of this, and because we're in our totally 90s season, I wanted to start by asking you about kind of your history with this particular character, how it became your moniker.
It started with just like it was a nickname that my friends gave me like right around the time of the movie. I don't know. Like, either like when it came out in the theaters or when it hit VHS. But sometime around the release of the movie. Um, I don't know. We used to just play like kind of my real name is Dan. And we used to play this like stupid game where like kind of almost like played each other. Like if you did something good, be like, yes, Dan, like sarcastically kind of like
Mm,
playing you. Like if you made like a crazy shot, it's like giving you props, but also like a dig at you at the same time.
That's what friends are
So it,
for.
exactly. So it went from yes,
Therapeutic.
Stan to Stanley Ipcus, and it was a friend of mine who was my neighbor that I grew up with, one of my best friends that I've grew up with since I was a kid. My boy Chris, who really started it, and then it just kind of stuck. It kind of aligned with the same time that I was starting to write raps. Um, I was a junior in high school, so I was like just starting to like write my first raps. And I used to call myself D Nice, but there was obviously like another D Nice who I was like a fan of. I loved like
sure.
25 to Life and all that stuff. So um, as I started to like get into writing raps and recording, like into my senior year, um, I would still call myself D Nice, but then it would be like AKA Stanley Ipkiss, And then eventually I just kind of like lost the D Nice. And by the time I was like really like putting together like an album for the first time and performing, I just started just going by Stanley Ipkiss. And it really was just that it was like a weird nickname that stuck like through high school and into college. Like everyone just called me Ipkiss, Ippy. It just like became like this name that was just attached to me so randomly from this like random reference to the mask, the character from the mask. And we were all like huge fans of Jim Carrey. I mean, if you look at 94, it was like Ace Ventura was the one that we were all obsessed with. Like we
Yeah.
all quoted that just all day. We did the voice. It was like ridiculous. And then there was the mask, which I would say was much weaker, but like we were still excited about it because it was Jim Carrey. And then there's Dumb and Dumber, which comes out the same year, like later in the year. So it's like, and that was the one that everyone was like, oh hell, like probably to
Seriously,
this day.
like
Yeah.
hit me with another comic that had that year.
It's a crazy
Historically,
Yeah.
it
historically.
it's crazy that they all came out in the same year. Like when I was putting together the mass tape, which we could talk about soon, but like I didn't even really realize that all three like really were in the same
Yeah.
calendar year. It kind of blew my mind. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was just big. But
And
yes,
all
the
of them
name
did numbers. It's crazy.
the mask actually did the biggest numbers, I think, maybe or
It
It was
did,
a
more.
yeah.
blockbuster. It was a
It
true like it was a family-ish blockbuster. Like you could
yeah.
take younger people and do it. And it was cartoonish. So it sort
Yeah,
of bridges gaps there. Everyone went to see that movie, as
Yeah.
far as I know.
It was the fourth largest box office globally of 1994, following
really.
Lion King, Forrest Gump, and True Lies.
What a
That's
year for
crazy.
film.
So those three, and then The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber's in the top 10 too. But like that's
Yeah,
the top four movies of the year by revenue, by gross, is wild to me in retrospect because I feel like The Mask became this sort of kind of pop cultural thing and beyond itself and kind of known and memed to death and has kind of had this life of this odd thing that sort of doesn't fit with the way in which Jim Carrey's career went after that and doing more serious roles and then kind of doing some particularly odd things and taking some risks.
right.
But
Yeah.
like this is as you pointed out, this was such a fruitful period, and we're all men around the same age. So Jeff, I'm curious about your connection to both this movie and to that's right, Jeff, you're on the show
Yeah.
too. And Jim Carrey in particular in this time period. Were you a big Jim Carrey fan?
Absolutely. I was obsessed with Ace Ventura.
Yeah,
Can still
same.
quote. It's been a minute since I've watched it cover to cover, but I'll tell you, I could probably quote two-thirds of it to you with maybe a little bit of prompting. I could probably do the whole thing. I mean,
Okay.
I just watched the hell out of the movie. Then The Mask came, and I watched it a lot of times. The thing
Yeah.
is there weren't many movies with Jim Carrey in them to watch at this juncture.
No, so you get
94
it.
launched this phenomenon. So
Was
that's what
Ace
I
Ventura his first like starring role in a movie?
No, it wasn't.
no.
But it's a very you got his career is fascinating because
Yeah.
In Living Color for many
I
people
think it
is the
was Once
starting point for
Bitten.
him. Once Bitten, which was a popular
Hmm.
movie you saw on cable all the damn time. I watched Once Bitten so many times that I still
Yeah, I watched it
remember
a couple of times
the
too.
theme song is in my head to this movie.
Hmm. I don't
But
know if
Once
I've
Bitten,
really seen that many times.
oh, I've seen it way too many times.
I got to go back and watch it.
It was totally inappropriate in 80s movie when I was a kid, like a kid. I'm watching like
Would
it's
you
sexual. I'm like I'm into this 100%. Jim
would you say
Carrey.
it made you twice shy?
No, I did not. We would not be
Say
discussing
that.
anything in that realm from this point on.
You know what I
My.
remember him?
I'm not allowed. Wow. Okay.
You know what I remember him randomly being in? It's like the smallest bit part. I don't even know if he talks, but he like you can get like a taste of like one of those like crazy like physical comedy dance moves, and he's like a background dancer friend, and Peggy Sue Got Married.
Oh shit, yes,
Is
that's right.
he is right?
Yeah.
He's in Dad and he's in one of the Dirty Harrys, right?
He's in Dirty Harry the Deadpool,
Deadpool. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
which I think is the fifth Dirty Harry movie.
yeah,
But he's also like he only had the two films where he was really like front and center
yeah.
before Ace Ventura and before In Living Color. One was Once Bitten. The other is Earth Girls Are Easy, which
Yeah.
with
Oh,
his future In Living Color castmate Damon Wayans
Right.
and Jeff
forgot
Goldblum
about that one.
as the aliens. So like he had time on screen. It wasn't like he'd had nothing, but In Living Color made him a superstar. And
Yeah,
then
for sure.
he had one hell of a transitional year. 94 was the last year of In Living Color, and it was his breakout year takeoff for all of these things. So
So
yeah,
he's still on TV. They're like, is he on that show at that
I
point?
think that
I think he was gone by then, right?
well, I don't remember if he was still on the show in 94, but that's the final year of the series. So this was the year that
Yeah.
everything started to kind of hit for him
I'd
in
have to
terms
look it
of
up, but I think he left before because like 92, 93 must have been an absolute madhouse for him because
yeah, of
that's
course.
when these things are taping.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm not
And that's
entirely
the
sure
height
when
of
he
the
left the
show.
show, but part of the reason that In Living Color was no more is because everybody caught fire and we're like, I don't have time for this show. I'm making
Yeah.
real money doing the
Right.
thing.
We're
Damon
all
Wayans
movie
is going
stars
off and
now.
doing movies like,
Yeah.
obviously Keaton Ivory Wayans was directing more. Like there's
Yeah,
all sorts of
all
stuff.
of the
Like, I mean,
Wayanses were
like,
blowing up.
but yeah, Jim Carrey at that time was so popular. And from my perspective, again, I was a fan of In Living Color. I can't imagine, how much of an impact it had on my sense of humor at the time.
Hmm.
And to this day, I would suspect as well if I really dug deep.
Yeah.
And Ace Ventura was exactly the thing for me. It was a sophomore comedy, and crazy shit happens in it.
But
And
it's got a
yeah,
solid, weird plot.
it
And
has a
that's always
plot.
good to make a
Yeah.
rewatchable comedy. The
Mhm.
plot really does need to like move forward. It can't just be a vehicle
Right.
to stupidity. Like
Yeah.
that
Right. The whole
movie,
like Ray Finkel thing and
all
the
Finkel
three of those
Einhorn.
movies from 94 are rewatchable because there are plots.
Yeah, there are
But
plots to all of them. Although
if
Dumb
you
and
were to
Dumber
say,
that's not really a plot driven film, but yeah.
okay, fair. But
Like
if you were to
it's
say
the
which of
buddy
these three
comedy.
movies
I'm just
made
saying,
the
yeah.
most money, no way that you would have named The Mask.
Now I feel comfortable I can share this with you guys. I have a 30-year grudge against The Mask.
Hmm.
Mm.
And the reason for that is right here.
Right.
Is that the
So
original one?
this is the omnibus. So this is a collection of the first three Mask
Right.
series. So I was by 1994, I was no longer really reading comic books. I had shifted entirely to music and girls, and comic books was largely a thing of the past. That's my focus was where it was. I cannot
Fair
lie
enough.
who I
Right.
became. But in the early 90s, I had absolutely picked up tons of comic books. I obviously the DC stuff and Marvel stuff was cool. I liked my X-Men. I liked Spider-Man. I liked Superman getting killed, Batman getting broken. That was all great in the late 80s and early 90s. But there were these Dark Horse comics, and The Mask is a Dark Horse property. That was just like, this is a little different. And I found The Mask and became a huge fan of this series. It was dark, it was violent. I was a kid who liked to read messed up shit, and it was, I found a comic book that was doing it.
What we're
So when,
learning is that not much has changed. Music, girls,
yeah, I mean, I'm basically the same person.
Reading fucked up shit.
If
really
you look
fucked up
shit and
shit.
going to the movies and watching movies, I was fucking, that's me.
You
But
have
I,
regressed back to the norm. I love it.
but I was excited for The Mask
Yeah.
because I had been a fan of the comics, and I had also been a fan of Jim Carrey on In Living Color. And so
Right.
this film comes out. I don't think I saw it in theaters because I wasn't making money like that. Like, can't go see everything in the theaters. I probably saw
Yeah.
it on VHS because I rented from the video store all the time. So went to, West Coast Video or wherever I
It
was
felt
at the
like it was
time.
an instant cable film too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't take very long for it to be like HBO's got this thing, TBS has this thing, and now TBS will never let you stop
Yeah.
watching it.
But I genuinely disliked the film at that time because it lacked the the angle of the violence. Had you had any familiarity with the comic book stuff or where it came from before or even after the movie at first?
I didn't. I honestly didn't know. I wasn't familiar at all. I wasn't like a big comic book kid. I just I wasn't really into it. I kind of grew up. I'd say like my pre like hip hop obsession was always like sports. So I was like I collected baseball cards and then basketball cards. And then once I kind of just like fell in love with like hip hop, like in middle school, it just really shifted to like buying CDs and tapes and records and stuff like that. But I never really got into comic books for some reason. I probably at the time of the mask didn't even know that it was like from a comic book.
Mm.
But since then
I
I've
didn't know
looked
it until
back.
fairly recently,
Yeah.
to be honest with you.
Yeah, since then I've looked back. I'm surprised I've never like in my collecting history like thought to buy those because I mean it's Stanley Ipkiss is the character in the
Yeah.
comic books. Yeah. Um I had like a weird DVD which was like they must have made like a was Saturday morning cartoon out of it at some point
Oh, they
Yes.
maybe.
did. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I remember I got the DVD because me and my boy DJ Roz, we were doing like a mixtape, and I think we were just trying to like catch whenever they said Ipkiss and like
Yeah.
sample it.
Yeah.
So I remember I still probably still have that somewhere. But yeah, I never had the comic book. I'd like to have it. I was actually looking at it today online. And I was like, I need to get this.
Yeah.
How
No,
do I not have this? I am
I'm
Ipkiss. I need to have
surprised.
this.
I'm
Yeah, yeah,
surprised.
yeah.
It definitely seems like this would be kind of part of your lore. Would we have this in the mix?
Someone sent me on Twitter or Instagram, like maybe within the last month, some like random weird like international Japanese or foreign pressing of some mass comic, like the cover of it. Yeah, I got to look back at what it was. It kind of was mind blowing. I was like, this is hell. Um, but yeah, never was really familiar with it. To me, it was just like a movie. It was like his attempt at like some weird action uh comic adventure story. It's like here, let's do some blockbuster thing. I wonder if the reason why I made so much money, I mean, it's just kind of accessible because of those things, but maybe the timing too, like it just being like a summer movie, just like crushing.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean that's to schedule during summer is definitely your way of saying like obviously now summers and the summer blockbuster being a comic book movie is now like the thing, but back then it was not.
Right.
And this
Right.
was not a film that they had like. This was a fairly like the budget for this film again is quite reasonable. It's like 23 million. It ended up doing like 120 million domestically, but like they didn't have to take a wild risk to put this out during the summer.
Right.
At the same time, so it's like it's out the same summer as literally like Forrest Gump is out that summer. And if you go to theaters, Forrest Gump is played at the multiplex too. So it was an alternative for a lot of people to go see. For young people, you got kids home. It's PG-13, so it is not for bringing the little ones in, but for
Right.
12-year-olds, for obviously for teenagers, sort of a no-brainer. And I think a lot of people went to go see it were in a similar boat to you, that they were not fans of the comic books. We're kind of like getting ahead of the period
Mm,
where now like the fans of these movies are so well versed in the lore that it's annoying. That it's like how much they
Mm.
know about,
totally.
Magneto. It's like I don't need to know that much shit to watch a fucking movie. But like with this was the thing about the comic book that's interesting is that Stanley Ipkiss is only in the comic book for like the first 18 pages.
Right. And then he's like another. They call him like Big Head or something like that,
Yeah,
right? That's yeah.
Big Head is kind of
Yeah.
because he basically he gets killed by somebody else who puts on the mask.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's first 18 pages of a series of comic books. Like
right.
it's issue one.
Spoiler alert.
And then the rest of the time in the original series, the rest of the time it's Kellerman, the cop in the movie who's always chasing him. He becomes the
Uh,
mask for the bulk of the actual story.
that's the
So
dude from Animal House, right?
yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Matter of
It,
fact.
so
Yeah.
wild to see some of these actors in this film.
It's got
That's
a
one of those.
funny, it's
That's
got a
wild.
sneaky cast that like I forgot about.
Hmm.
Ben Stein.
Ben
Uh,
Stein shows up.
Ben Stein pops
What a
up.
scene! What a scene!
It's so funny. Um, yeah, and then I don't really know like that's a super early Cameron Diaz for sure, right? I
It's her
mean,
first.
Absolutely.
It's her
is that her
first.
like is that her first
We're
role? I
in
mean,
it's
that's a
introducing her to.
It says
does it say that in the
introducing.
beginning?
It does,
Wow.
yeah. Introducing.
That's a
She was a
that's a
model.
big role to get. Yeah.
She was a
Was she?
model. Yeah, she was a
Hmm.
model at the time, and they kind of discovered her for there. Um, we often kind of look at when we look at these movies, we try to look up fun facts and information about casting. And one of the things was she was obviously as a newcomer, not the first pick for this. There were plenty of other women who were being considered or thought about, but someone who was allegedly attached for some time was Anna Nicole Smith,
Interesting.
which was
Hmm.
wild to me because I had not really thought of her in that context as,
Has she ever acted? Has she ever like done like anything
She was
substantial?
in she was in Naked Gun 33 and a third, the final insult.
Oh yeah,
yes, that was
yeah.
what she did instead of this movie, which
You know what? I think we
The poster
won.
for that movie was great.
I think we
Is that
won
was that the
that
pregnant
battle.
one where he's pregnant?
It's an
Jeff is
incredibly
the
weird movie.
Jeff is
Yes.
the Naked Gun
So
expert in
I,
in
I
the
think we
corner.
won this battle
Okay.
because I think Cameron Diaz is perfect for that and Anna Nicole Smith
Yeah,
was perfect for that.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Like we as a society we're better off with these people doing what they did.
What year is Naked Gun one? What year is that? 92?
80,
Oh, is
I
it
want to
80
say it's the
eight
end of the
lady?
80s.
Yeah, it's like late 80s,
89,
I
80,
think.
80? God, I love that movie.
It's a perfect film.
Oh,
I rewatched it recently and was
same.
It's
pretty impressed with how well done.
so
1988.
many good jokes.
88.
1988.
Yeah,
88,
it's
yeah.
so good. There's so many
88.
good. That's another one I like grew up quoting for sure.
But
Absolutely.
Yeah.
that what I find is like so there was a certain type of comedy that could be clever and physical at that
Mhm.
time. And the Naked Gun films are great examples of that. They're a great mix of
Yeah.
watching O.J. Simpson get hurt, which, in the cosmic sense
Right.
is probably
It's cartoonish violence, but these people, they were actual people in the film.
yeah.
Whereas this was cartoonish violence, but it was all cartoons.
Well, it's a lot of it is cartoons, but I
Yeah.
guess this is where I start to find the problem in this film, and
Mm.
from my perspective, taking a because now I'm watching it as an adult, so now I'm taking away this grudge I had as a surly teen about it's
Right.
not as bloody as the comic book. I'm an adult now. I haven't looked at.
Yeah,
I
now
mean,
you're
I
a
have
surly
this.
adult.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
different. I don't care about the same things. I'm angry about other stuff.
That was your beef that it wasn't violent enough.
That was my beef. I wanted to see,
The
there
comic,
was
the comic is
bloody,
just super.
bloody. So
Got
it's
it.
like, it's gore, it's bloody. It's like, it was just
Right.
such a like over the top thing. And there was none of this like cartoon character aspect of this sort of Tex Avery cartoon violence thing was not really part of it. He had weapons. Like, there's some things
Right.
from the story that cross over from the books that cross over to this, like the whole scene where he's doing balloon animals and one of them turns into a Tommy gun. Like
Yeah.
that
I
is
love
from the
that.
book. That is from the books. Like it's
Okay.
actually they ripped that straight from it. It's not the kind of movie that it thinks it is. It is the way I've looked at it is that it is ostensibly a comedy, but it falls into this category and it becomes the question that I am compelled to ask far too often on this show is clearly it was a success. Clearly it made a lot of money. But the actual film, before it got seen by one person, who was this movie for? Because the way it is presented, the way it is written, there is no clear audience to me on this.
Hmm. Like it's not a family film. It's not like a kids movie. It's not for the people who are into comic books necessarily. Yeah.
It's this is a script that was described by some as in development hell. Three different sets of hands worked on this script, and I think you get
Hmm.
between story and there and like
That tracks.
there's three names attached to this. One of them is Mike Werb, who gets the actual screenplay credit, and he's the one who worked with the director Chuck Russell on closely to his vision of this, taking out the violence and focus,
Right.
making it more of a family friendly with a romantic comedy angle to it. But which is fucked up because Chuck Russell, the director, had never directed a comedy before. He's the guy behind Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, and that
Awesome.
and that 1988 remake of The Blob. That's what he did before The Mask.
Interesting.
Little fun
So
fact.
like he's a horror director.
Hmm.
That's
Right.
his first. And he also like worked with like Roger Corman back in the day. He did like stuff in the 70s as like second unit director and cinematography stuff. And he did some producing as well in the 80s. Like he's a producer on Rodney Dangerfield's Back to School. But he never wrote a comedy. He never
I love
directed
that
a
movie.
comedy. And the guy who got hired to do the script was an unknown. He'd done some story credits on some low budget stuff. But like the other two guys, this guy Michael Fallon, who there's really not much on him either. But Mark Verheiden is the outlier that he actually had some experience in terms of writing, and
Yeah, he
he
put it to good
was
use.
because he was a comics writer, so
Yeah.
he was the guy who created Time Cop, which became the
Oh,
Jean Claude Van Damme Time Cop movie, and he had a writing credit
jabs.
on that, also 1994. But note that everything I'm saying, none of this is comedy.
So we can cover
So
Time Cop if we want to. I'm just
yes,
asking.
it's fair
Okay,
game.
great.
It's
Continue.
convoluted as fuck. I mean, I watched it like a couple months ago for the first time
That
in
movie,
years, and
you don't watch that movie to figure it out.
it hurts your brain.
You can't try it. You can't figure it out. Let it go. It's
It's
okay.
like it's like Christopher Nolan couldn't make time travel more confusing than that movie does. Not a chance. So I guess my adult gripe with this film is that none of the elements of comedy in this script and in the way that it's shot. There is Jim Carrey emoting it up. And then if it's supposed to be family friendly, then how do we get like some of the really weird and fucked up stuff in it? Like, yeah, you get the kind of like a wooga, kind of ridiculous cartoon lovey-dovey stuff in there.
Yeah.
But you also get like some very adult visual gags and one-liners. The used condom in the balloon animal scene in the alley.
Mm.
Like, oops, wrong pocket. He
The
pulls
Mask
out.
is super horny.
Oh, deeply.
Here's the thing. The
Mm.
mask, whomever wears the mask
Right.
becomes their
It brings out their
like
innermost desires.
right, it brings out their innermost desire, but they become this thing. Do these dudes desire their faces to look awful? Is that what they want? Is that part of the desire is what I'm asking? Because the faces once people put the mask on, even with the dog, is they're
The,
just
the, dog,
hideous.
the dog face is crazy.
It's
That's
crazy.
crazy.
And I'm like, is this a thing that men want? We want our faces to be mangled, and yet we're still like heroic and, unkillable.
I saw it with like the Jim Carrey character. I was just like about confidence,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
he's
Hmm.
just getting stepped on through
Yeah.
the whole beginning of the movie. The woman he works with is like takes the 2 tickets and goes with her friend. Like the guys just rob him
The landlord, first and foremost,
yeah, when he
whose
goes to get his
landlord
car.
whose landlord is talking to people this way? If my landlord walked up to me and was like, "Do you have any idea what time it is?" I'd be like, get the fuck out of my face. How
She's
dare
telling him
you
to
come and
turn.
tell
She's
me
telling
what
him
time it is? I don't give a fuck what time it is. I'm a grown ass man. I come in at 3 if I want to come in at 3.
yeah, he's like watching cartoons. She's like telling him to turn it down. He like turns it off. It's just like the whole time he's just getting owned. So I just feel like the moment he has the mask on, it's just like the confidence, and then you see like as he has it, wears it like a couple of times, eventually like that confidence is just like coming to him without the mask, which I
Right.
like. But that's
Yeah.
like how I saw it. But I guess it affects the whatever the Dorian dude in like a different way.
Yeah. It,
It
it
just
makes it so
makes
that
him just like,
it makes it so that it no longer seems like Peter Green is actually in this movie anymore. He's somehow
yeah,
gone. Peter Green, who I'm just gonna say it, Peter Green is far too terrifying a villain for this
Yeah.
film. And I'm not talking
Yeah.
about the character he plays. Like Peter Green should not be the bad guy in this movie. He is too scary to be the bad guy in this movie.
I'm with you on that.
I've seen him play some real dark roles on screen
right,
over the years, and it's hard to like separate that in my mind,
Yes.
especially. And again, this goes back to some of my issues with the kind of how this is not a comedy in so many ways. Is like the looming specter of domestic violence every time he and Cameron Diaz are on screen together. It's just like it's always like he's about to slap her. I feel like I'm about to watch like some genuine violence, even though I know that's not what this is. Because again, I think
right.
the way that they're filming it, and like, this is the
Also,
same.
the mouth golf scene, if you understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying, the
I know what
mouth
you're talking
golf, yeah,
about.
yeah. The mouth golf scene is the only way I can describe it. It just it doesn't fit at all. Like we're having a good time. We've got a lovable loser. And then this guy is like, I'm willing to like almost smash your face in with a golf club, but I'm also willing to give you a full week to plot and carry out revenge before you have to be out of town. We're
Yeah,
gonna give you a whole week. This is a terrible deal for the golfer here. I don't remember what was his name?
Nico,
Nico. Yeah.
Nico.
Nico.
Yeah,
So
Nico, you fucked up, Nico. You're a bad boss and you deserved your fate.
I feel like my main problem with the movie, like when it first came out, was like Jim Carrey was so funny in Ace Ventura and Living Color, and like you just kind of wanted him. And I actually think like the parts where he's just Ipkiss, like without the mask, were like funny. Like he had some good liners, one-liners, or just like the way he acted was just kind of funny.
He
But
did some cool shit where he would like walk into a room and kind of stumble over things or
yeah,
couldn't get
he
the
was
the the drawer into the desk
right,
like in front of
exactly.
the
He's
pretty
like,
lady
yeah,
and he's like it really bothers him so he slams into it.
yeah,
Like there are so many things that made him awkward
yeah.
beyond the awkward
It
dialogue.
it was that, yeah, like the tissues, like that's what they're there for, like it's like corny but like
Put
funny,
your
like
put your money in a mattress in the back. Like he
yeah,
gets to be a
exactly,
cornball. Yeah, he's a good
exactly,
cornball.
and that stuff, like I think I was into. I was like, oh, this is pretty funny, but I think like when he put the mask on, like I just didn't really think it was funny. Like
yeah,
like it was impressive, but like um it just didn't make me laugh. Whereas like Liar Liar or something like that, like when he turns it on, like it's fucking hilarious
And it's
yeah,
and
charming.
impressive.
There's nothing charming
Yeah.
about the mask.
Yeah,
He's
she's just
just
like
kind of
he's
a
doing all these
dick.
voices and you're just
Yeah.
kind of like, wow, this guy's like a comic genius that he can just nail all these crazy voices and physical comedy, but like I just didn't think it was funny.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think
The Ipkiss character, I think I thought was funny, but like there was only really the moments in the beginning where you really get that like lovable, doofy, dorky stuff where they kind of set up who he is. Eventually, it just becomes plot driven, and there's like not as much
Yeah.
of that. But that
Yeah.
was probably my beef. And it was funny, like when I was watching it all the way through, I don't know about you guys, but like I found myself thinking like, wow, I've seen the first 30 minutes of this movie 1,000 times. And
Yes.
I haven't the last hour of it I've seen twice.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
Like I don't know.
absolutely correct. And it's like, I feel like it comes on right before you got to go somewhere. It's like a right before you got to go somewhere movie where
Right.
you get like 30 minutes in, you're like, all right, I gotta go, and like the rest of this is kind of boring, and you grab your shit and you're out. It
Or,
it's
or was
it's
it that we like turned it off because like he's funny when he's Ipkiss, and then by the time the mask stuff comes in, you kind of are just like, all right, that was cool, but like enough
they spent
already.
all their time giving us the mask when the mask is the least interesting character in the thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, he's gonna rob the bank, he's gonna get
Yeah,
into some zany mischief,
yeah.
and then he's gonna kind of force himself on people.
Mm.
And then we're gonna he's gonna wake up and be like, uh-oh, the cops are here. Well, yeah, dude, like you
Yeah.
robbed a bank. They're gonna come find you.
That's so funny.
Eventually.
They
And you're
robbed your
sleeping in your
bank.
own bed
Your
after you
bank.
robbed the bank.
You robbed your bank. I
You
don't know how
robbed
else to
your
say
own
it.
bank.
Like I want to say, no, that's such a good point because I think they were expecting Jim Carrey doing his emoting and doing his physical stuff was
Yeah.
going to be funny enough. So his lines that he has as the mask are almost entirely improvised. And so that's why you have like
Mm.
weird, dumb catchphrases like "Look, ma, I'm roadkill," and for no
Yep.
reason at all, smoking. No one smokes in this movie, but like he says smoking. The first time you see the mask, he says smoking, and then the last thing Jim
The
Carrey says in the film is smoking, and like
last thing you hear in the film is he
it's
kisses his girlfriend and he turns and
is
goes,
smoking.
smoking.
That's right.
So like
That was a little forced.
I just like part of the problem is
Do we need this?
they had to write material and they had to have him act when he's Ipkiss because you have to tell the story. Once
Right,
he's the mask, once he's Big Head, once he's whatever you want to
right.
call him, Loki, whatever he is, once he's there, they were just like, we don't need to have any jokes. He just has to do silly shit now. And maybe there's some sight gags, but the truth is, like, they just were like, he's going to sing a song now. He's
Right.
going to go awooga. He's going to, he's going to get shot and pay out a dramatic death scene that's not
They
real, like over the top.
they set us up with the like odd like he's transfixed with cartoons is what we're made to believe in a very
Right.
short introduction to the idea
Yeah.
that's overpowered by Ben Stein somehow. And it's a weird sequence of events in the beginning of the movie, and then they sort of dump on this like, oh, by the way, he really likes cartoons.
Right. It's just like part of his thing. Like
Like
he
he's
comes
got
home from
a
work and
pair.
he's like,
He's such a big nerd that he's got a pair of cartoon tapes.
Yeah, and
yeah.
like, and he has a Tasmanian devil couch cushion,
Right.
like a
Right.
throw
Does he
pillow,
really?
like a throw
I didn't
pillow for the
notice that.
Tasmanian devil.
I
Like
saw that too. Yeah.
it's like they, and I don't think when I watched this for the first time in '94 or '95 that I understood what they were doing. And I mean, I was familiar, obviously, with like the kind of Tex Avery cartoon stuff
Sure.
because you watch cartoons as a kid. It was like any cartoon
Yeah.
will do. So I watched a lot of stuff that's not actually holds up. It doesn't actually hold up, but we get and seeing it now, it's like I get it, but it's still not like actually funny. Like
Right. Right.
and like the idea is that he's supposed to like the power that he has isn't just this invincibility thing. Like there are rules we learn about this mask. Like for some reason it only works at night.
Yeah.
Right.
Doesn't explain anything about why or
Mischief.
and really
Yeah.
other than the scene
That's
with
when
Ben
mischief
Stein.
happens, Gary.
Right. He
other than
tries to
the
put it
hour of
on in
mischief.
Stein's office. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the only time that really it doesn't help. Like it's not like that's a bit of information that gets used later. It never gets used again. It never
No, the rules
advances the
don't
plot.
seem to really matter.
No. Like and
Much
then
like,
it
I mean, that's sort
like
of
that one
Loki's
scene.
thing, right? Like
Yeah.
the god of mischief, this
Yeah.
sort of like anarchic devil
But
may
the
care.
rules that are associated with the mask never at any point in the film
They don't matter.
come benefit. So like that scene where like a piece of his pajamas gets ripped from the from his outfit. So something like the pajamas are now evidence at the
Yeah.
crime scene.
Yeah. So
Right.
And
this
it's
is,
like and I'm thinking like, okay, this is going to benefit us somehow later on in the story. Like a screenplay is going to reveal this
yeah.
bit of information to you that something that is on the person when he's
Can
in
we,
the character, if that gets removed, then that'll come up, and that never gets showed up either.
this movie, like the cops in this movie are such buffoons.
Buffoons.
It's
Yeah.
total chicanery. Like nobody knows how to do anything. Like that's how he makes a connection to Stanley Ipkiss, someone who a reporter found out had like a car in the shop that got tossed up.
Hmm.
He acts
And
so
like it's
suspicious the
just
whole
all
time.
these things are happening around him in his apartment building, in the bank where he works, and it takes this thing getting shot off of him and him going, "Oh, that's the same pattern as those stupid pajamas from days ago. It's Ipkiss." Like
Yeah.
that's what leads him to believe this
Yeah, the
It's
whole
magical
time he's
rule that makes no sense whatsoever. He's like, "Mm-hmm, I figured it out."
well, one
It's
of the
this
main
guy.
rules with the mask is definitely like if you get like you're not going to die, right? I mean,
yeah.
No,
they both get
you're
shot.
invincible.
Yeah, you're basically invincible. That's like the main one that you. But they don't really allude to that. Like, I mean, they don't really like blatantly ever say it or even make it a thing. It's
I
just
think
kind of
it
known. It's just kind of known. Like
Yeah.
he's just
Yeah.
getting the
before
bullets back out.
it's all dodged bullets, right? Like he's
Hmm.
just been dodging bullets. But at one point, and this
He
just has
leaks.
to come up because uh, he controls a police force.
Yeah. This is the other thing.
He controls a police force and has them sing a song. Uh, and I am here to tell you that I they call me Cuban Pete.
We're not doing
Oh
this.
my
No. No.
They
God.
call you
No. No. No.
Ipkiss.
No.
They call
Yeah.
me Cuban Pete.
The
I'm the
way
king
in
of the
which
rumba beat. Explain away the
we're
fact that
not.
I'm the king of the rumba beat.
I'm not even
Explain it
entertaining
away.
this. I'm not entertaining
Explain it
this.
away.
I'm not
You
even
can't.
entertaining this.
You
No.
can't explain it
No.
away. I am Cuban Pete.
The absurdity of your statement is matched only by the absurdity of what happens in when people are in the vicinity of the
It's
mask.
this. It's
The
so
cops,
stupid.
the cops, the
The
nightclub.
music in
But
the
yet,
movie is kind of wacky.
It's
Like
so
it's
fucking
not only
over the top.
wacky, it's like people credit it with a swing music revival, which I
like
feel like
pre
is kind
swingers.
I feel like yeah, like you're like a year before swingers and like yeah, I know we had a moment and there was squirrel nut zippers existed for a brief period of time, but like I
Oh,
feel like
who
this
there this thing who was the backing band? I forget their name.
they're called the Royal Crown Review.
Royal Crown Review. That's right. They're
Mm.
Like
ooh
I'm just
wee.
it was but I'm just saying like I feel like seeing people try to talk about this about being the spark for revival, it's like I don't think that's actually what happened, people, but
Okay, but let me just tell you real quick about your
I
boy.
don't know. I
I
don't
was
know.
like dead, like in the water for the swing revival. I was buying old swing. I was buying new
No,
swing.
no.
Oh
No
yeah,
fucking
buddy.
way.
It was the fucking introduction
What?
to jazz in my life was swing music.
You've got to be shitting me.
You could get whole box sets of this shit on vinyl for like $5. And I would buy
For
all
for a
these Duke
reason.
Ellington records and all of these, like, yeah, Benny Goodman, all of it. I loved all of those dudes.
Oh my
Mm. I
God.
mean, Duke
Duke,
You
Ellington's
yeah,
the man,
like,
but
yeah,
I
Duke.
never was like a swing guy. I don't know. I just
I did it for like a
can't get
full
into the
year and I
swing
went all
stuff.
in because you could go all in on swing for about $40. You could get it all. The whole
Literally
collection. Every fucking song in
the whole
history
genre,
on
Oh my
CDs.
God.
You could get
the
it all for
whole
$40. And I'm
fucking
talking
genre.
about brand new too. Because like as soon as people bought it and listened to it more than once, a lot of them were like, okay, I'm going back to the store
Let's
with
go
this
back to
shit.
start with this shit.
I don't
Yeah.
want
That
this.
is funny.
God.
This isn't what I signed up for at all. So
Yeah,
I got caught. I got caught. I'm
yeah. The
sure I
Cuban
had a
Pete thing
Royal
is
Crown
whack.
review record in my collection at some point. I'm sure I did.
I was
This is
wa-
the
I was
darkest moment.
I was
This is this show's
I was
darkest moment.
watching I was watching like the back half of the movie and not Cuban Pete. I would never fucking think to sample Cuban Pete. But I
Mhm.
was watching like the back half of the movie and at one point like a kind of like a weird beat dropped in, like a more like drum heavy like backing instrumental track in one of the
Mhm.
scenes and I was kind of like, I wonder if I could like loop this or some shit, like on some just weird Ipkiss shit. And I was like, you know what? I'm trying really hard to listen to this and think that maybe it would be cool, and it's just not gonna happen.
Mm.
The
Can't do
music
it,
of this
man.
thing is bad. And Cuban Pete especially is like just
It's
like
just random
so
too.
outrageous.
It's
What
random.
is like they shot
But
this. They made a musical for 4 minutes.
well, the whole idea is just that it's like this Copacabana-ish
Yeah.
club that's really
Like,
the centerpiece of the movie or where all that
Right.
crazy nightlife action happens. So that's like the music that makes
It
sense for
begs the
that environment.
question that like our bumbling lieutenant friend, what's his name in the movie? The
Kellerman.
cop? Yeah,
Yeah.
Kellerman. Kellerman is somehow like unswayed by Ipkis's song. Like, why is he so strong?
Yeah, everybody else is kind of
Because
falling
the
on this
rest of the
way,
movie, he's a total moron.
but like Kellaway and Dorian and
Hmm.
Dorian's henchmen all are apparently impervious to the charms of
Not
this
explained, but it's
mischief.
there. It makes you
Yeah.
think, like, what
Yeah.
did they do differently than everybody else?
Did they just previously hate
Because
Stan Ipkiss? Like,
neither
what's
of
the
them was particularly smart. I mean, the reason we had the golf mouth scene was because this dude's just running petty scams out of a gangster's club
yeah.
Right.
under his nose and not cutting him in on it.
Like that's you don't fucking do that.
That's just fucking stupid,
It's
man.
straightforward.
It's really stupid.
What did
And
you
the
guys think of like the special effects, like in the movie? Like, I was watching back on, I was kind of like, these are pretty clean. Like, they're actually like pretty good for like 94. Like, not bad. There's a couple spots where I'm kind of like, okay, I can see the
the flushing
couple,
him down
the
the toilet part was pretty bad.
technology. Yeah, that's pretty stupid. But like,
Hoo-wee.
in general, like, I thought like actually the special effects were pretty dope. I don't know. Maybe,
I think the special effects and the practical effects, for the most part, really well done. Like really
yeah.
well done and hold up in a way that very few things from that period
Yeah.
Right. I
do.
was kind of like I almost like didn't expect it to be like, oh, that's actually like pretty clean. Like it doesn't yeah, they did a good job.
What's upsetting about it is that there are areas where like Jim Carrey's mask, which apparently took like 4 hours to put on, like it is, and I'm saying this as someone who read the comics, it is exactly how I envisioned with the teeth. It is
Right.
exactly how I envisioned he would be on screen. So it's so well done.
Mm.
You see it and you believe that this is that. You're
Right.
not taken out of the moment. However, when Dorian puts on the mask and there's a handful of scenes where we get a little too up close to it, I'm like, look at that rubber piece of shit. Like,
Right.
look at that thing that took 5 minutes to make. You can see where they painted on shit on there. Like,
Mm.
it just sort of takes you out of the moment when there's like, you see this and you say, like, well, if you spend all this time showing me how cool you can make things with special effects and with
Yeah.
practical effects, how you could make us believe that Jim Carrey is the mask. And then you go in like in the third act, we're like, well, we got to put like a fucking Halloween mask on this guy, this little rubber shit, and think that's going to be enough to do it. Like, so, but I think that holds up. And when you look at that budget, Jim Carrey did this film. He did like before he signed on to this film before he was big enough to really command a significant salary for the film. 450K to do this movie,
That's crazy.
and like
And
the
it did
budget
how
is,
much?
and it did 120 million in the
Just in the
U.S.
theaters.
In the
And it's
But
U.S.
been
no,
like
but
and
like,
then
but
350,
moneymaker
worldwide?
350
forever.
something domestically.
Yeah.
Sorry, 350 something
Oh,
beyond that was
worldwide,
domestic.
yeah.
350 something worldwide. So you've got that. It only costs 23 million to do. This isn't a film packed with stars. This isn't like heavily on the music. You're relying on this fact of you're going to make
Who
as close with the
do you
cutting edge with special effects that you can do to make
who
those
fumbled
parts
the
count.
bag? Who fumbled the bag on getting a second Mask movie made post haste to like capitalize on this shit?
Jim Carrey didn't want to do it.
That's it. That's the
That's
whole
really what it
story.
was. Jim Carrey, I don't know obviously the details of his contract, but I guess they did not think that this was going to be a thing that they would have to lock him into multiple movies on. And so, the fact that it was such a wild success that it, made, whatever, five times its budget, I read some factoid that up until that Joker movie came out, the first one, it was credited as like the most profitable superhero movie uh ever made.
Mm.
And again, I don't I'm not I don't have I'm not going to say that with 100% confidence, just something that kind of I
Yeah.
read and didn't back up, but it does say something about the fact that like they didn't have to put a lot into this to make this a success. But I
It's
think the
pretty
special effects is
crazy.
what saves it because there are other films from the same decade where they either skimped on this stuff or did not work with the right studios, and you go back and watch these things and you cringe. I think they
Yeah.
did a
Jim
tremendous job.
Carrey was right not to do it.
Yeah, he was.
Kudos because like the payday, that guy got a billion great paydays. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna like worry about him or anything. But that would have been a really big one.
yeah.
Is
Well,
Ace
look,
Ventura 2 good? I only remember seeing it like in the theaters, like when it came out, and just being
yeah,
like
it's not
stoned with
great.
my
Short
friend,
short
and just
answer, no.
No.
I don't think it was
Short
very
answer,
good,
no.
right?
Long answer, there are some really funny situations and
Yeah,
dumb things happen, but no, it's not a good
yeah,
film. It's not at all a
yeah.
good film.
But
But he
I'm
went for
glad.
that.
Yeah, he went
He
for
went
that,
for
and I think
that sequel.
he might have been locked into a sequel for that one. That's possible that they signed him up for that because again, I don't know how long he was on the mask signed on for the mask for, in terms of its development process. But what he did after, obviously, he spent the rest of the '90s just making hits, essentially. Batman Forever, Ace
Yeah,
Ventura 2, Liar Liar, The Truman Show, and Man on the Moon. That caps out his '90s run, which
it's a good run.
just blockbuster after blockbuster. It's sort of
Smash
like
hits.
very few comedians have had a run anywhere remotely to that. Like Adam Sandler
Most of
would be
those
the
are
first
killer
thing to come
left
to my
hooks,
mind.
man.
Like
Like,
Eddie Murphy, Adam
mm,
Sandler, those are the types of people I would say kind of fall into that. They hit the ground running with cinematic careers and made like multiple films that we sort of like accept as part of the zeitgeist. It like affected culture. It impacted how we look at
Hey,
things.
liar,
Truman,
liar, liar, liar is
Right,
so
like
high up for
Liar
me,
Liar.
man.
And
love that movie.
that's the
It's
film that
so
gets the
good.
So
family,
stupid,
it
so
gets the
good.
family
It's
element
I
right
love
too.
stupid good movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you. I really enjoy that film. And I'm a big Truman Show guy.
Truman Show is very good.
I've
Yeah,
watched
that's
that
I
thing a
haven't
million
seen
crossover.
times.
I haven't seen Man on the Moon. Like I probably saw it in the theater. I don't think I've seen that movie that many times in my life.
I was a big Andy Kaufman fan, so I watched that film
Man on the Moon
quite a
is
few
great.
times. And like
I definitely saw it in the theater.
Also,
I
if you trace to where like Jim Carrey sort of lost interest in, I guess, society as a whole, it comes directly from studying to be
Andy
Kaufman
Kaufman.
and
and
understanding what
and
Andy
doing
Kaufman
method.
understood and
Yeah.
methoding as him. It like kind of there's a little fault line right there for
Yeah.
that dude where he just sort of was like,
Yeah.
"What are we
Mm,
doing?"
That broke his brain,
yeah.
man. That
I
broke his
mean,
brain.
it's
Broke my brain.
I reading that dude's book, all of the things about Kaufman, whatever. We don't have to get off on that because
No,
like
no, sure.
we should at least cover the fact that the mask kind of sucks. It just kind of sucks. It's just
I
not a
mean,
very good movie.
it's the worst of the three from that year
That's
for
I
Oh,
think
by
sure.
far and away.
yeah,
By far and away. The other two are bangers.
They're super bangers.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're super
And
duper
he's
bangers.
on a 10 the whole time in those movies.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that, that's the thing that we wanted at that time was we wanted full 10 all out Jim Carrey.
No, the one thing I will say is that I don't blame Jim Carrey for this being the weakest of the three films in '94.
No.
No.
I don't blame him for it. I think he worked with what he had, and I think
Yeah.
he did a good job with what he had. But just they didn't make enough of a movie for him to really be funny in it. And I think he did his best with what
Also,
he
the
had.
mask is kind of characterless, right? Like it kind of just felt like he was doing a Robin Williams impression as the mask.
Yeah,
Like
and
he was
Robin
Jim
Williams
Carrey, and then he was Robin Williams in
and
Aladdin.
Robin Williams was way back in the early part of the development process was the type of actor they were looking for to star in this movie. They were
Boy,
thinking
that
they were
makes a
going to try
lot
to
of
get
sense.
they
It
wanted to get
really
either a
does.
Robin Williams, a Rick Moranis, or a Martin Short to do it. That's the kind of caliber they wanted. They were willing to be like they were interested in like Matthew Broderick for this. They were interested in Nicolas Cage for this even. But Jim Carrey was such a draw at the time
Yeah.
based on
Does
TV that they
Nicolas
were like,
Cage make this movie better? Yes, that's my answer.
okay,
Yes,
then,
it does.
yeah.
Maybe.
And
Does Matthew Broderick
they
make this
got the
movie
right
better?
guy.
The
No,
answer
No
is
they
no.
shit.
We've
got
all
no.
Inspector Gadget. Enough said.
They got the guy. They got the right guy. It
Yeah,
wasn't
Yeah.
the
they
guy's
did.
fault. He did a very fun Robin Williams impression as the
It,
mask. It was
it was
fun,
just kind of like
but it
what's the
wasn't
let me
good.
show you something. Like what's the
Right.
it's kind of just that and like a hundred
Fire
different
Marshal
bits that
Bill.
are it's the Fire Marshal Bill, like a hundred different like weird iterations of Fire Marshal Bill just kind of pop up like that. If you liked Fire Marshal Bill, then you might have liked his whole bit around having
I
the
liked
mask
Fire
on.
Marshal Bill a lot. I could do the voice and stuff. It
Yeah,
was fun. Uh,
right.
however, uh, yeah, the returns on a lot of it at once. It turns out it's not great.
It was great having Stan Ipkiss on.
My name is Cuban Pete.
What the hell is this?
I'm the king of the rumba beat.
Please don't do this, man. Can we just like not do this? I know you want to so badly. I can see it, but
No,
I
no, go ahead. Go ahead with
no,
whatever you were going to say.
no. I'm just saying, like,
When
look,
I shake the maraca,
son
I
of a
go
bitch.
chick chicky boom, chick chicky boom, chick chicky boom. Listen,
Okay, we fucked up. Okay, we fucked up. Like I'm willing to admit it. We
fried my
fucked
brain,
up.
man.
We fucked up.
Oh, it
This was
fried my
not this was a quintessential
Oh,
Cabbages movie and a great conversation. But
it
at the end of the
was.
day, at the end of the
I think
day,
we fucked up, man.
we
I don't know if I can come
fucked
back
up.
from this.
We fucked up choosing this
I
movie.
watched it as an adult. I never meant to watch it as an adult.
No, and I've made my opinions on it pretty clear at this point. But
Hmm.
I know now looking at it like this was a mistake. Sometimes we do things where like, oh, we're gonna pick a bad movie and we're gonna get into it. And every now and then I go like, I think we fucked up. Remember when we did Cats?
We've both of yeah, I try to
We
block it out of my memory
we
all the time.
fucked up.
We have admitted on air many times we fucked up, but this is one of those times where we kind of fucked up.
We fucked up.
So I'm saying we just take it completely off the rails.
Great.
I
What,
got a
wait,
90s
what?
movie in mind. I've
Off
got a
the
90s movie
rails.
in mind that takes us the farthest out we can go.
Okay, like farther out
Total
than
fucking nonsense, man. We're
Hmm.
not talking about the mask silliness either. These people are acting. They are acting
All right.
through
All right.
through an absolutely ridiculous set of circumstances.
I'm intrigued. All right, so we'll do that.
It's-
Because we gotta get out of this some way. And if
Human Pete riots again.
look, as long as it's in the 90s, it means we can't possibly do Son of the Mask. So I feel good about this.
Oh, we can't we?
We can't.
Okay, I'll think of something else.
Okay, great. We
Great,
do
okay.
that.
I got it.
We'll figure
I
it
got
out
it.
next time.
It's the Cabbages Podcast Network.